Welcome to The Explainer, where today we're tackling a story that has it all. High society drama, a bitter rivalry, and a haircut? Yep, we're diving into one of the most brilliant and frankly bizarre satirical poems ever written.
I mean, it sounds totally absurd, doesn't it? But that's exactly the genius behind Alexander Pope's 18th-century masterpiece, The Rape of the Lock. He took a tiny, real-life argument and just blew it up to Trojan War proportions. Now, to really get what Pope is doing here, you've got to transport yourself back in time. We're talking early 1700s England. This was a world of idle aristocrats where, honestly, your whole life revolved around vanity, fashion, and super strict social rules. Appearance was everything. It was a society that had basically perfected the art of making mountains out of molehills, which, you can imagine, made it the perfect target for satire.
So, the big question is, how did Pope manage to call out all this ridiculousness? Well, he had a secret weapon, a brilliant literary tool called the mock heroic.
Okay, so what exactly is that? The mock heroic is all about creating this hilarious mismatch. Think about it. You take the super serious, elevated style of an epic poem, gods, heroes, grand battles, and you apply all of that to something totally trivial and silly. The humor and the real bite of the satire comes from that huge gap between the over-the-top language and the tiny subject.
And this chart, it lays out the game plan perfectly. On one side, you have a real epic with huge wars and legendary heroes. But in Pope's mock epic, the grand subject is a stolen curl. The legendary warriors are fashionable ladies and their gossipy guardians, these little spirits called sylphs. He's using the language of Achilles to describe a fight over a haircut at a party. It's absolutely brilliant.
So armed with this amazing tool, Pope basically holds up a mirror to his own society. And let me tell you, the reflection is not just funny, it's also incredibly sharp and critical.
He really goes after some specific targets. I mean, he's aiming right at the heart of their world. Their obsession with beauty, these fake courtship rituals they had, the total emptiness of their fancy parties. He even points out how they'd basically started worshiping beauty instead of, anything with actual substance.
And this quote is a perfect example of how he does it. He describes the heroine Belinda getting ready at her dressing table, which they called a toilet back then, and he makes it sound like a religious ceremony. The makeup brushes and perfume bottles are like sacred relics on an altar. It's just the perfect way to show a society that's completely lost its perspective, worshiping itself.
And it's not just getting ready in the morning. He does the exact same thing with their hobbies. There's this scene where they play a simple card game, Ombra, but Pope describes it with all the intensity of a massive, epic battle. The kings and queens on the cards become these mighty warriors. And by doing this, he's showing us how they poured all this massive energy and importance into things that just didn't matter.
Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of the poem's moral conflict. It's basically a showdown between two big ideas, vanity versus virtue. And these ideas are personified by two very, very different women.
You've got Belinda, who is the star of the show. She's all about vanity, beauty, and what people think of her. Her whole world is her appearance. But then you have Clarissa. She's the voice of reason, of virtue. She's focused on character and what's on the inside. Clarissa shows up for a moment to drop some serious wisdom, but, well, spoiler alert, nobody listens.
And this is her big moment. Clarissa gives this incredible speech where she basically says, look, everyone, beauty fades, your hair's gonna turn gray. So what actually lasts? A good sense of humor, a good character. This is the absolute moral core of the entire poem. But her advice, it gets totally drowned out by everyone screaming and fighting about that lock of hair.
All right, which begs the question, why are we still talking about this? It's a 300-year-old poem about a haircut, for crying out loud. Why does it still matter?
Because, and this is the key takeaway, Pope wasn't just making fun of snooty 18th-century aristocrats. He was hitting on something universal, a flaw in all of us. He's critiquing that human tendency we all have to blow trivial things way out of proportion, to turn minor annoyances into epic dramas.
And really, that's what the poem leaves us with. It forces us to look around and ask ourselves, what are the trivial pursuits that we treat like epic battles today? What are our own locks of hair that we wage war over? It's a question that feels just as urgent now as it must have 300 years ago.